Bridget?
Yeah, like what you just said now about issue on, we don't talk about it, we use the word depression. And we also say, use the word denial.
Sure. Yeah, I guess you can. I don't want to play with words, but sure, yeah. You can deny it.
But how can we eventually get rid of it?
Yes, we're going to get there.
If you live with that, it's still going to interfere with one's happiness in life.
You know, I had a friend. Something had happened to her at the age of 11. And so one day she writes an email to me saying, I've been carrying this with me from place to place for the past 20 years. You can't have that episode that took place in your life at the age of 11 on the foreground, because it's going to create and bring about emotions that you don't really know how to deal with. You know? I mean, consider that you left your country to come to a better place, say America. Okay? Now, the consequences of you leaving, and I'm going to create a story, it may not be true. You left your mom, you left your dad, maybe you left even your husband, so you could come here, work, and send them money. Maybe you left a couple of kids. You left your sisters and your brothers. You also left your land, okay? Your history, your culture. And you come to a place like this. Now, if you were to constantly think about what you have actually done, your mom is 70, you left her. Your father is 85 and you left him. For what? People have survived that region for thousands of years. What is wrong with you? And just looking at this and seeing this and being mindful of this on a daily basis, it's going to traumatize everything about you. You're going to walk around with a good amount of conflict and anger. And you're going to snap at everyone. Are you happy? No, I'm miserable. What are you doing here then? Go back. Go back to what? And now you live in two worlds, but you don't belong to either. You're unhappy in America, and you can't be happy in certain parts of Africa. So we can't but be in denial. And I'm telling you, it's not a bad thing, Bridget. Look, when you come to my house, I have a garage, it's filled with junk. And every time I want to open the garage door to go in there and grab something, I try to distract myself. Why? Because when I see the garage in the shape that it is, something about me says, Amir, go wear your work clothes. Go in the garage, spend 5 hours and clean it up. That takes mental energy, physical energy, energies I don't really have. So I try not to even think about the garage. We deny things for good reasons. They protect us. Okay? The only problem is this. They may be able to protect you when you're younger. Because when you're young, your life is not very complicated. You have a job, you take a few classes, you do what your parents ask you to do, and life is simple. I mean, it's complicated, but it's very simple. But as you age, you know what happens is you have to get a job that's 9 to 5. It's very demanding. It kind of just sucks the life out of you. And then you get older, well, damn, you need companionship. You need someone to go home to eat with, to watch movies with, to lay next to go on a trip with. And whenever someone gets close to you and you're comfortable with them, all the rust, all the issues, all the things you used to deny will slowly come out, unless you are a great politician. I mean, look, great politician. When I go home, I want to make sure I don't smell like weed because my mom will notice. Okay? Now, when I was younger, when I did it the first couple of times, I would smoke weed, go home, smell like it, and be very proud. And my mom would slap me. And then I would see her in the back room crying, saying to herself, I did all that work. I thought my son is going to end up to be somebody. He's a nobody. Okay? Years pass. I realize, well, I've been addicted to smoking weed, but one thing I can no longer see is my mom being heartbroken. So before going home, okay, I'm going to smoke at 10, allow the smell and the rest of it to kind of wear off a little, then I'll go home around 1:30. My mom won't notice. Now that is a good politician. And that takes a lot of awareness. Now you have to love your mom to see that what you have done has impacted her negatively, so you could change your behavior. Okay? So denial is good as long as you know how to tame it. Make sure it never unleashes, expresses itself outwardly. Most of us are not that proficient. Okay? So, where was that? Okay, so there are these issues that live inside. Remember, Socrates is wrong where he says the unexamined life is not worth living. That is not meant to be a public advertisement. If things are going well with your companion, there are no rust in your relationship. Don't make it rusty. Don't ruin it because you're on this intellectual high. Okay? Now, so you've had this issue, let's call it rust, and you've been able to kind of very nicely repress it, push it down, so that you don't see it, and it doesn't impact you. Once in a while, on the other hand, you exhibit certain behaviors that force other people to wonder about you, to become confused about you, where they say, you sure you don't have any problems? You don't have any issues? For the first time, what's happening is that not only are you becoming more aware of the rust within, but other people are also bringing to your attention that there is rust within you. You're not going to like what you hear. Remember, all of us like to change. There is no denying that. Almost all of you in this class like to buy a house. True? Sure. If you want to buy a house, which means you want to move out of your crummy studio or one bedroom or a neighborhood that's really sucky, and you want to move to a better environment, well, what needs to happen? You need to start saving your money. But working at In-N-Out is not going to save you that much money. So you need to make a sacrifice. You work at In-N-Out and you go to school, take online classes, and you're no longer at an age where you can take one class a semester. You got to jam through it, 21 units a semester. All the while having a job, taking care of your family, and living in a one-bedroom. Remember, your desire is to move out of Oakland and move to Piedmont. It's a desire, but you have no idea what is the cost of that desire to come to life. Because everything has a cost, everything has a price. You know, I used to buff cars for 17 years. And you don't really buff cars that just came out of the car lot. They're usually nice and clean and shiny. Customers would bring their cars and they'd be so awfully oxidized. You get this high-speed buffer and you apply this wax on the buffer pad, and then you put this machine to the paint and it's high speed. If you're not careful, you can burn the paint. And you got to do section by section. I mean, you and I can learn so much about how our interior works and how our interior can go through changes if you just pay attention to the way you cook eggs, fry eggs. It's the same principle. It's a cool pan. You got to heat it up. And if the pan was alive, it would say to you, please, I'm burning up. And then you get a solid, healthy butter from the fridge. And you cut it. Imagine if that stick of butter had feelings. And you put it in this hot pan and it melts. And then you crack these eggs. I mean, remember, you're destroying almost everything in its natural nature. Butter is sold in the fridge having a good time. The pan is in the cupboard having a good time. The eggs are in the fridge having a good time. Nothing is being impacting them in a negative way. You're changing the chemistry of everything. Now, so before you remove the rust, you kind of have to go to this railing and say, listen, you look awful. In this day and age, when you tell someone who has rust inside, you look awful, they could stab you, they could shoot you, they could punch you in the face. You have no idea how people are going to react. If you're close to them, like a father or a mother or a sibling, you're far too close, so you have no respect. They're not going to respect you. His mother has told him plenty of times, stay in school. What does he say? No. What do I say to him? Stay in school. And he takes it a bit more seriously. Not because he loves me more than his mom. We are just not that close. I have power, authority in ways that his mom doesn't. And I speak in a way that his mom doesn't. So a lot of it depends on who is telling you how rusty you are. If it's your dad, you're going to give him the finger. If it's your siblings, what else do they know about your life? Go back to Machiavelli. You will never respect people you love, but you will always respect people you fear. Always. There's a reason why you call your boss if you're going to be late to work. Because you fear him firing you. There is a reason why you're nice to your customers when in fact they're idiots. You don't want to lose your job. Fear civilizes you. And it forces you to listen, to be disciplined. Okay? So remember, next time you want to seek advice from anyone, the first thing you need to ask yourself, don't gossip. Don't just go out there and advertise that you want to change. That's the first thing. Second, when you go to someone saying, I want to change, ask yourself, how close are you to this person? Do you fear them? Do you love them? Do you hate them? If you hate them, there is nothing that he or she can say to you that will inspire change. If you love them, you'll be inspired, but it has a very, very, very short shelf life. If you fear them, you can't fear anyone who has no power over you. Your boss has power over you. Once you're fired, you won't get a check. If you don't get a check, you can't pay rent. Okay, so don't be a gossip. And I assure you, next time you take your rusty issues to someone you fear, Søren Kierkegaard has a book called Fear and Trembling. Okay? that if you want to go to the church and pray, synagogue and pray, mosque and pray, temple and pray, if you want to sit in your room and summon the gods to come to you, you need to understand, Kierkegaard argued. You're asking the creator of this universe to pay you a visit. You better not ask casually. You better be sweating. You better be trembling. It's like standing in a ring with Mike Tyson or Tyson Fury. Okay? If you have been addicted to the rust within, addicted, it means that you have a habitual way of thinking about an issue, habitual way of feeling about an issue, and habitual way of behaving about an issue. And if it's a trauma, it leaks everywhere in your life. Okay? If you have been physically abused, it's going to impact every aspect of your life. Okay? Jean-Paul Sartre, he's a French philosopher, one of the founders of this movement called existentialism. He has this really, really beautiful metaphor. He used to sit in coffee shops every single day and write about 20, 30 pages every single day. And his writings were really based on his observations about how people come and go in coffee shops. So you have a waiter. He has a tray. And on the tray, there are about 20 coffee mugs. And he's about to give people their coffees. It only takes a single drop of hot coffee on someone's wrist for this entire tray to fall to the ground. A single drop. If you have trauma inside you, it takes a tiny little episode for you to explode. A tiny little one. When this guy comes to you and says, 4 weeks sober, it only takes a slip, a tiny slip. He wakes up, he's in a bad mood, the wrong friend calls him, he's tempted, he goes out, they smoke, it's finished. He's back on the same old track. So remember, if you have an addictive issue, it doesn't take very much for you to explode. Right? Now, so let's say now you are this rusty railings and you say you want to change because you see and you feel and you have seen how this rust has impacted your life. And you have also grown a thick skin. That when someone says you got issues, you say, yeah, I've been trying, it's just very difficult. Then you get to a certain place in life where you assume or you think you are ready for someone to come to you with a grinder. Now remember, this rust has been glued to you for 20 years. Do you know how difficult it is to just get rid of the rust that has become part of who and what you are? It has given you meaning. It has given you meaning and purpose to your toxic emotions and all the things that you do. And now you want to give them all up. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for two reasons. It's not going to be easy for you who has the rust, and it's not going to be easy for the person who has the grinder. Why? The person who has the grinder has been under the assumption that just because you ask, you also have the stamina to change, to have the grinder on top of your skin. But you have never had the grinder on top of your skin. You have no idea how you're going to react. It may be that the moment the grinder touches you, the sandpaper, you may scream and say, "It's a little too painful, I'm not ready. Let me just have the rust back." Okay? So keep in mind, just because you desire to change, it doesn't mean you can. Everything has its own proper stage. Remember again the saying in the Gospels, you can't make the grass grow by pulling it. I can't force you to write well. To write well means to think well. To think well means you have to be interested in the stuff you're thinking about. To be interested means you have to be inspired. And that inspiration has to be protected for a long, long time to move into the stage of interest. And why is this important for you to know? Just in case you have rust inside and you want to change, but you keep failing. It's because right now you're only at the stage of desiring to change, not the actual change. Give yourself a break. Be hard on yourself. Be demanding on yourself. But don't expect ridiculous things from yourself. You know when boxers have to fight, and they usually fight 2 or 3 times a year, they begin training about 2 or 3 months in advance. If you want to get into a ring with an addiction that you have, before you actually begin to wrestle with the addiction itself, you need training. Before you stop smoking weed, grab your cell phone. Look at the contacts. Okay, you're going to highlight all your weed friends. And then your finger is going to be right at the garbage button, the trash button. And then you say, tomorrow. That's how it works. Okay? You're going to disappoint yourself the moment the grinder hits you, because you know you don't have the capacity to endure that much pain. The person who has the grinder is going to be disappointed at you and himself or herself for assuming that he actually had the power to change you when in fact he can't. So, how does the addict, someone who has rust within, how is he or she able to sacrifice the rust? Because remember, you remove the rust, you have to prime it. Then you have to lightly sand it. Then you paint it. It's not like you grind and you paint it. It doesn't work that way. For this metal railing or a human being to be able to remove the rust, have you seen that picture of Johnny Depp? Recently came out. He's in the hospital on this bed. He's like passed out because his finger has been broken because the woman threw like a wine bottle and broke his finger. The pain is so much inside his body and emotions. He is also aware that he is no doctor. I mean, look, first you know you have pain, but the next stage is you must know that you are not a healer. You can't fix yourself. That is a great vantage point. You don't expect ridiculous things from yourself. You know you're addicted to drugs. You also know that you can't fix yourself. That's a great place to be, because most people try to wing it themselves. It's not possible. When you know that you're no doctor, something about you submits, resigns. You don't expect ridiculous things from yourself. What makes his case a little easier is the following. It's a hospital. Doctors wear white gowns. You kind of just submit to them. You don't say, "Can I see your degrees, please? Is this your first day at the job? How long have you..." You don't ask those questions. But when it comes to someone fixing your soul, like Socrates, there are lots of ideas out there. They're all interesting. They're all attractive. They all make promises. But to whom are you going to submit? And that's where Sarah's question comes about. Love. If you don't love someone, you will not take abuse well. Grinding is abuse. Sanding is abuse. Removing rust is abuse. Priming is abuse. Painting is abuse. All being done to you from the outside. This is something that parents do and do really, really well. They spank you. They make you cry for something stupid that you have done. Half hour later, you're having frozen yogurt. Compassion and justice, hand in hand. Now, there are a couple of things that modern students, those who want to remove rust or remove garbage from their interior, a couple of things you need to know. America is a land of advertisement, and every piece of advertisement makes 1,001 different claims and promises. There was a time that in colleges, universities, you and I would only read classical books. Shakespeare, Thoreau, Plato. But because of printing press, because of technology, because of entitlement, there are hundreds, if not millions, of books out there, most of them trash. If you want to remove rust from interior, you need to know that there are millions of people out there selling you ideas. Your job, if you are serious about transformation, you gotta test drive this vehicle, this piece of advertisement. Don't purchase it. Don't become attached to it. Test it. Ask lots of questions. Because it's no different than buying a car. Because you're going to be invested in this piece of vehicle by your emotions. And God forbid if they ask you for money. The job of a student now is to test their teachers. And there's a guy at San Francisco who teaches philosophy. I will not mention his name. Actually, I don't know his name. But from what little I've been told, he claims to be this teacher of sorts. He's a psychic. He has a PhD in philosophy, I guess. And he can heal you through Zoom as well. You don't need to meet physically. And he doesn't charge you very much. Just what little you have in your pocket. The unexamined life does not apply to him as a philosopher. Okay? So before you hand your life over to be grinded, test the person who's promising you change. Now, I don't know what sort of tests you need to do. Most of the stuff really is just, it happens intuitively. But what happens because of frequency, intimacy, as you spend more time with this person, something about you begins to shift. You accept his or her ideas, but you also reject them. Why? Because it conflicts all the stuff you already know about yourself and feel about yourself, and it's going to be right. So there is going to be a good back and forth for a few years. You're not yet fully submitted or fully invested. And it doesn't mean that just because you're invested, you're going to get anywhere. Really, most of all the stuff is a shot in the dark. Go back to the Gospels. A 12-year-old kid goes into the desert, comes back at the age of 30. Supposedly he has had some profound enlightening experiences. He assumes he can have good disciples. He comes back and is betrayed by every single one of them. It's a shot in the dark. Which means the following. All of us are doing the best we can to cope with the miseries of life. And whatever it is that you're doing, it's a shot in the dark. And whatever piece of advertisement is out there promising you this and that, it's also a shot in the dark. Do you have any questions or comments before? Bridget?
In the case of abuse, maybe like abuse somebody you say the child, like you mentioned, there could be a situation where one will need treatment.
Yes. It's true. I don't think anyone should underestimate the evolution of medicine. You know, sometimes depression can't be fixed by simply talking to someone. You need medication, you need pills. And if you're in good hands and the person says maybe you should try some medication, you should do it. Yeah, you're right. Well, listen, it's good to see all of you. Sarah, good luck with the kids today. Have a nice and safe weekend. We'll see you next week, Tuesday.